Calm Down with Erin and Charissa is a production of iHeartRadio. Well, cue the Celine Dion music. All by myself. Guys, if you want to sign me for a record deal, I'm available. Welcome to the Calm Down podcast. I am, for now, all by myself. As Pat McAfee, hopefully we get him on this show one time, would say, T's and P's up to our girl, Charissa Thompson. She is out sick this week, but I can assure you next week she is going to have one hell of a story for us. I won't give that away. But yeah, look forward to that next week. But because we love everybody so much, and thanks for tuning back in to Calm Down podcast with Erin and Charissa, you got me. And I'm excited because we called in an emergency favor. And Chris is going to be pissed. We called our end-all be-all, the GOAT, the Michael Jordan of sideline reporting, of being a female in this crazy-ass industry of sports broadcasting. We called in Melissa Stark. And like I said, Charissa is not going to be happy that she is missing this, because Melissa is somebody that I know Chris and I look up to very, very much. The first time I met Melissa, I was at a party at the Emmys in New York City. I just joined Fox Sports, and let's bring it back. I mean, I knew I always wanted to be involved in sports broadcasting, but I think it was when Melissa started on ESPN, Scholastic Sports. Yeah, was that it? I know that's when she kind of was on my radar. But then when she took to the sidelines on Monday Night Football, that's exactly who I wanted to be. I cut my hair like her. I started to dress like her. I was doing the sweater sets and the slacks. My dad loved her. He would say, watch her, watch what she does, watch her stand-ups, listen to her reports. And I tried to be like her. I tried to emulate her. I remember thinking Faith Hill was really hot and big that time. And I remember thinking Melissa Stark is the Faith Hill of the sidelines. And I never had a chance to meet her. I was never at the same event as her. Yeah, I joined Fox Sports 10 years ago. Oh, yeah, 10 years ago. This is my 10th season. Went to the Emmys, and we had to go to kind of a cocktail hour before. I remember I was in a green dress, and somebody said, "Oh, there's Melissa Stark," and I panicked. I remember just sweating right away, being very concerned, but I had to go say something to her. I walked up to her right away. I got a sweat stash above my lip, and I just said, "Hi, I'm Erin Andrews, and you're my Michael Jordan." And God knows what she thought when I said that, but I love her. And since then, we exchanged phone numbers. Chris and I are on a very fun text chain with her where we talk about basically everything. Also, who's doing your hair and makeup in London? Do you have anybody in Boston? But yeah, I'm so excited Melissa's here today to help pick up the slack that our girl left behind. Just kidding, CT, we love you. We hope you feel better. But I have a ton of questions for Melissa. I also think it's pretty darn cool with the return of Tom Brady to Gillette Stadium this weekend. Melissa started her career kind of when that era began, the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick era in Foxborough. So I have been jealous of her for many years with the relationship and the trust that she has with Bill Belichick. And I actually talked to Coach Belichick about that. What was it about her that he trusts so much? So I'm dying to get her take on this weekend and the games. And yeah, it was a crazy week for me last weekend. Where were we? We were in Houston for Carolina Texans. And then Sunday, really quickly, I did Bucs Rams. And it was a home game for me in Los Angeles. And Tom Brady's in town, Super Bowl champs in town to take on Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, and that freaking awesome Rams defense. Holy shit. First of all, the biggest observation from that game, well, a couple of them, the Rams are unbelievable. The party is back in LA. Kings, let's go. Pick it up. Dodgers are always winning, but the atmosphere at SoFi Stadium, I think we did a really good job on our broadcast kind of showing it. It was so freaking loud. my ears were ringing even when I got back home and was watching Sunday Night Football with my husband. My ears just hurt. Like, the fans were unbelievable. They were blaring music out of that PA system. It was such an incredible atmosphere. The stars were there. Larry David was there. Jason Sudeikis, Ted Lasso cast was there. Kind of annoyed they weren't on the sidelines. I really wanted to meet him. Coach Beard was there. Dr. Dre was on, the Jumbotron. It kind of felt like what the old Laker games look like with, Kobe playing and Jack Nicholson being on the sidelines right there courtside. It was an awesome experience, and proud of the city of Los Angeles. The Rams looked unbelievable. Bucs defense needs to get it going. Tom Brady played well. It's just they couldn't get that run game going and everything. But wow, LA was a party. It was a scene. It was a vibe. I'm pumped because hopefully we have more home games, but it was a really, really cool experience. So excited for this weekend with the return of Tom Brady. Excited to talk to Melissa Stark about it. And also don't forget, you guys, always checking in on our Calm Down Podcast Instagram. I was doing some stupid stuff, I think, on it this week, and we'll fill you guys in from Cincinnati. I head there tonight for our Thursday night matchup, Jacksonville at Cincinnati, and then I'm off this weekend, and I cannot wait to be in my pajamas, watch football on Saturday and on Sunday, talk to our girl Charissa, hope she's feeling better. And like I said, I'll check in on the Instagram. On our Instagram account. Okay, that's enough of me rambling. Coming up, the OG, the GOAT, the hottie, someone I live for and I'm so grateful for, and grateful to be a friend of hers and to have her help me out with advice and just to kind of poke fun sometimes at this profession. Melissa Stark is going to join us next. So, I'm just coming on and saying this because we are very informal on Calm Down. Our girl, Charissa, will let her explain when she's back under the weather, but she's going to be pissed about this because we share a lot of love for a lot of the same athletes. But when we talk about somebody who is the end all be all for the both of us, who we just love, admire, has been our mentor. The first time I met you, I called you my Michael Jordan. You did. It is the one and the only Melissa Stark. And I got to tell you, I called my dad today and I said, Chris is sick, Dad, but I got Melissa Stark coming on. And he said, oh my God. You are it. How are you?
I'm great. Although it's funny when you guys say that I'm your role model because not that women talk about their age or anything like that, but I don't, it makes me feel like I'm 60 or 65 when you say that.
Nope.
And I came so far before you, although
you didn't though. Yeah.
We did come at different times because, you were sort of more in the social media age, right? Don't you think? And I didn't really have any of that.
I know.
And then it was sort of where, I cut my hair all short and did that whole thing because you were just supposed to be one of the guys and you were just supposed to fit, you were just supposed to be this hardcore, serious journalist to be taken seriously. But, that all changed. And now you can have fun. And I love watching all your interviews with the players. Aww. And it's just, it's a whole different dynamic where it kind of encapsulates everything. And it's just, I kind of wish it had been during my time, it had been like this,
You say that, oh my God, 10,000 notes from Melissa Stark. The first one, my haircut like her. That my haircut in 2004, I was doing the Stanley Cup Finals.
I don't know how podcasts work, but can we see this haircut?
We'll get it and we'll put it up. I know I have it on my phone, but I cut mine exactly like yours when you were on Monday Night Football. Exactly.
I was like your Jennifer Aniston then, right?
You were. I dyed it. Because we all know I'm not that blonde. I dyed it exactly like yours. I had it super short and I wanted to be, I would try to wear exactly what you wore. You looked a hell of a lot better than I did on Monday Night Football sidelines, but I was my stand-up for Game 7 of, you would have never worn a bright lime green Ann Taylor V-neck, though. I know that about you. You had too much like fashion style than I did. But yeah, you were my end-all, be-all. But wait, I have to ask you, can I go back from the beginning? I was looking, you were an intern for the evening news with Dan Rather. That's incredible.
For the CBS Evening News. I know because I think I always loved sports, and I grew up in Baltimore, and so and my dad's an eye surgeon at Johns Hopkins, and so he would on the side go check on the Baltimore Colts during halftime during the games. And so I always say, I was in a locker room when I was 5, 6, 7 years old.
Whoa.
So I was there when I was young, and I just always loved sports. I mean, even before reality TV, I just said it was always it's the best reality TV, and I love playing sports. I'm a huge tennis player. I played golf, the whole thing, and so what was your question? I forgot what your question was.
Just what that experience was like. I mean, being an intern for CBS.
Yes. I digress. So it was incredible. I mean, so I worked for Dr. Bob Arnott, who was the medical correspondent. So that was sort of how I got at the inn, because I come from a family of doctors.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
I'm living in New York City. I went to UVA, and it's in the summers while I'm at school. And it's just incredible to learn sort of that journalistic sense. And the best is, so when I graduated from UVA, so my senior year at UVA, my last year, you call it a fourth year at UVA, because according to Thomas Jefferson, like it's ever evolving, your education. So, So my fourth year at UVA, I did something called the Coaches Show, where I did features on all the basketball players and all the football players.
Yeah.
And so when I graduated, I had this tape, because back then you didn't, you couldn't just film something on an iPhone way back then, Erin,
Stop it. I had one too.
Ancient. So I went around to all these news directors, and I said, I know it's all sports, but I really want to cover news. I really want to be Cristiano Amanpour in a war zone or whatever it may be.
Wow.
And that's actually how I got to the Today Show, because they did an interview on me in Vogue and saw that. And the head of talent at NBC said, really, you want to be in news? So then I went to the Today Show. But so all these news directors said, I can see how you cover a sporting event, but I don't know how you'd be in a town council meeting. And we're talking about, Salisbury, Maryland. I'm looking here at Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, where we have a beach house. I thought, oh my gosh, okay. So then ESPN was launching ESPN News at the time. So it was sort of just a fit. Because I covered all the local teams in Baltimore. I covered, the Orioles. I mean, all my hometown teams growing up.
So that was your beat, Baltimore. Okay. I was trying to remember. DC probably. Yep.
That was. And it's funny because I met somebody in the press box at an Orioles game. And they said, do you have an agent? And I said, no. And they said, well, there's this great woman who represents Bonnie Bernstein. And of course, you remember Bonnie Bernstein. I mean, she was first, do the thing. And I said, do you think she'd, take my call or take my tape? And they said, well, I don't know. Here's her info. I mean, she called, the next day, and sort of the rest is history. But ESPN News was launching at the time, but I'd never, Erin, how reading a teleprompter is it's just a different skill.
Yes.
And
horrible.
I never read a teleprompter. And so the interview for ESPN News was and I just I didn't even know to move the shot sheets. I didn't know what I was doing. I go, well, that went terribly. And I remember Al Jaffe, who was hiring everybody, took me to the Chili's, because that was the one place in Bristol, Connecticut that you could go, it was the hot spot to eat. And so we went to Chili's after, and he said, well, but I think we have
Did you get the fajitas?
What'd you say?
Did you get the fajitas?
I probably got the nachos or the fajitas, without a doubt. Without a doubt. So I started hosting Scholastic Sports America, which is all.
And that's when I fell in love with you. Yeah.
It was incredible. So that's how it all kind of started. But I always loved news, which is interesting, and then I wanted to get back into news, right? It's sort of always, and then I went to the Today Show, but with kids, because I've got 4 kids now, and I always say I have little kids, but I don't. They're all in high school. I have 4 friggin' high schoolers, which is crazy. To say that. And I feel so old when I say that, but
stop it.
So, it was hard to do news, because I remember, they wanted me to cover like Siegfried and Roy. You remember the tiger tamers and got mauled by the tiger.
The attack.
Said, can you fly tomorrow to go do this? And I just couldn't. That type of lifestyle where you just had no schedule was really hard. And in sports, for us, it's kind of it's the perfect job, because everything's scheduled, and when you're doing what. I mean, unless, of course, it's breaking news or something like that. But
totally.
That's why it works with a family.
Yeah. So if you had your choice right now, I mean, say you're back where you were with Monday Night Football, if they said, be, the host of you're taking over for David Muir or Brokaw or, Jennings. That or Monday Night Football Sidelines? What are you picking?
No, it would still, okay, you and I can talk about Sidelines, because Sidelines is I
can't wait.
And I commend you for, Sidelines is a really hard, you've got 25 seconds to get in the news, and you've done so much work. Like, I remember Steve Young once saying to me, so do you just show up right before the game? What do you do? Like, do you guys just kind of come over? And he said, do you even stay during the game? Like, what do you do?
Come on, Steve.
Come on. Maybe that wasn't for Sidelines, but just covering the game. But, it's so much more work than people think. I remember when I was working with John Madden and Monday Night Football, and he wanted, he would want us to fly in 3 days ahead of time. So for a Monday Night Football game, you're going Friday because you want to see the practices, the whole thing. You want to watch film. It's a lot more work for just a couple of hits here and there. And 99% of what you've learned or what you've researched that week or who you've talked to doesn't ever see the light of day.
Ever.
So I would choose sports hands down over news to answer your question, just because I remember when I filled in for Ann Curry. I was the news reader on Today's Show. And every time I would read the news, and every time it was a sports story, I would just light up, right? I mean, I would just come alive. And so I just think that for me, there's so much more energy in sports, and it's just so much more exciting for me.
So exciting. I feel the exact same way. I mean, I'm trying to be a more responsible adult now that I'm 42 years old, and be like, okay, let's try to understand more than just a 4-3 defense, 3-4. Like, let's try to understand politics, what's going on in the world.
You've done so many different things, and you've ventured out into so many different areas.
Right. But this is my love. I'm disgusting. I'm in a hotel room. I'm flying to Cincy tonight. I'm in Miami right now. Like, I haven't seen my husband or my dog. We're working on a family. But I would die if I
want to ask you about that, because I never know about that. Like, how you feel about all of that, a family and everything. I want you to have kids.
Oh, we do too. We're trying so hard. We've had the worst time with fertility. Actually was at the fertility clinic this morning here in Miami before I head to Cincinnati. It's just become a part of my life. Like, I know it's going to happen, but holy cow, has this been a journey. But it's going to work out. It totally will.
Yes, it is.
I've never stuck myself with more needles in my entire life, but I'm envious. Your children are beautiful, and I cannot wait to have some babies.
But I just did all that I did all that. I had to go through. I had some struggles of my own, so I know where you are, and I feel your pain. I just did it. I just did it a while ago. So, but I think it's all so exciting, and I'm excited for you.
It'll all work out. I love you. Okay, so one thing I'm dying, and it's so timely. So Bill Belichick, definitely hard for me to crack. I've been very, very open with that. And I one time said to him, it was before the Houston Super Bowl where they took on Atlanta. He was so wonderful to us in our pregame meetings with him, like 2 or 3 days before the Super Bowl. And I just walked up to him afterwards and I said, Coach, thank you so much for your time. I said, you have to know Melissa Stark is who I look up to. And I know you respect her very, very much. And I'd just love to know, Coach, you do these sit-down interviews with her. You do these one-on-ones with her. What is it about her? And I said, because I want to be like that. And he just said, you know, in so many ways, she's no bullshit. Like, she's just, he trusts you. And I think I texted you a couple days later, or maybe right then. And I was like, what do you do? How do you do it? And I think it's so appropriate for this week with Tom going back to New England. Melissa, you started your career with these two together and I just have goosebumps thinking about it. What is this game for you like this week? I know you're not working it, but I know you're part of all the conversations, and just your career started with Tom and Belichick. It's incredible.
I know. And it's been so fun to watch it evolve. And I think and I know you're good friends with Tom, so back at you on that end, because you developed this relationship with Tom where you and I are both like, he's the best, you know?
Yes.
And so I feel, here's how I feel about all of it. You know, Bill doesn't like to, we all know typical Bill in a press conference and what you hear, and he says, I've addressed it and I've talked about this. And he's basically referring to the team's statement when Tom left, and that's how he addressed it. And he's not a man of many words. So here's how I feel. I mean, I feel like watching them accomplish what they accomplished. Obviously, we'll never see anything like that in the history of, I don't know, anything, right?
And you got to cover that. You got to be in the middle of that. That was like your Michael Jordan time. That's awesome.
I'll never forget after when I was working at the Today Show and Tom had won the Super Bowl, and it was so early in his career that he literally, I remember that the room was on the other side of the stadium where we'd set up for the Today Show. And he just walked with me the whole time. And he was dating Bridget. He was with Bridget at the time. And I said, well, I was out with Bridget last night. And he said, oh, and we just talked the whole time we walked there. And then how everything changed, since then. But he's never been a guy who, I remember even for Monday Night Football, I'd be like, I don't want to do the post game. Or even at the Pro Bowl, I'd have to drag someone in to go get him to. But I'll just never remember that moment because it was sort of before it all blew up. He had just won. And we just walked in the tunnel.
I love that story.
It was surreal. Anyway, so for them to accomplish, we know Belichick and the way he is, and we know the Patriot way and how everybody's, treated the same there. And, you hear what Tom Brady's dad says about it and how irate he is and Brady not getting the star treatment. But I look at Brady now and how much fun he's having. It's almost like the way you and I are having fun, like later in our careers. I kind of see you now what I do then, right? Earlier in my career, and that I had that much fun then because but granted, you have to earn all that, right? And you have to go through and you have to be serious during those times. Otherwise you don't achieve what you achieve. But to see him kind of like surrounding himself with all these guys that he wants in Tampa, and then we know you and I, Bruce Arians is like the antithesis, right, of Belichick.
Yeah,
it couldn't
tiki bar, cocktail.
I mean, so during you're running off the field with him during halftime. He says the funniest things during the games, and it's all just okay, You almost feel like he's winging it in a way, but he's really not winging it, right?
Yeah,
but it's just such a different approach, and so. To see Tom celebrating, last year in Tampa after it all, and then to have Gronk, and then these commercials keep coming out and all these fun things. Like,
who has time for these commercials?
Life,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, just big personality and just and really being able to show this whole other side. And granted, like I go back, it goes hand in hand with like putting your head down and really earning it while he was, with the Patriots. But it's just a totally different style. But I think. I think it's funny that they just lost. It's not funny for them, but the Brady coming off a loss is like the worst thing.
Yeah,
it was a bad loss, right? You were there. You were that game, right?
I was. That was my sideline. Yes.
When he's the leading rusher, right? He's the leading rusher. It's not good. But I think him coming off a loss, and then I was watching him say, he knows exactly what the wind's going to feel like when he goes there. He knows exactly what everything, like just the whole feel of when he goes back there, what that's going to, because he's so, his attention to detail and his perfectionism. But I think it's exciting that it's come. I don't love the whole talk and dynamic of Belichick versus Brady and the whole thing, because I don't think it needs to be like those two pitted. They accomplished what they 20 years. Okay. 20 years is a long time, right, Erin? I've been married 20 years, and I'm not saying I'm ready to walk away, because I'm not. Not even close.
Today. No, I'm kidding.
Exactly. 3 kids like that I think have COVID right now, 3 out of 4. And
God love you for doing this.
That's a little stressful at times, but that's a long time to be with somebody, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, I know that they just didn't. They had a certain type of relationship, right? A business. And that's the way Belichick is, right? And, they'd play golf together. They wouldn't do much, outside of, but I don't know, what coach and player do a ton outside of it, but they just had that relationship. And so, but I'm excited for him. I'm excited for Brady that, he's getting to, like live it up after accomplishing what he accomplished and earning all of that.
What was your sweat and anxiety level when you would talk to Belichick at halftime? Mine is an all-time high. I mean, it should be a deodorant commercial. It's like out of control. I can't calm myself down.
Some other, you and I could compare notes of who just
Give me who did that to you. Anybody?
Oh my gosh, of all people, and I work with him now, Steve Mariucci. Like he was he is my favorite, but he was, you'd have a guy, I would always say, oh my gosh, Herm Edwards would be like, you don't need to run, slow down. You can walk beside me. And it was just so kind, right?
Melissa, there's no bra support out there that makes running after a coach look good. I mean, I want to say to them, I'm holding my clipboard and running like, hey, can you do me a favor? Like, you don't want to fall. You don't want to slip. You look like a buffoon. So I love that about Herm. Okay, what else? This is amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean, the funny thing is also that I said to you earlier, like that I feel like I wish I could go back now with the confidence that I have and go back, because I did Monday Night Football at 26 or 27, right? And
crushed it.
Like you can get bullied a little bit, right? And now I think it's the flip side where I just wouldn't take it, right? But then, especially for me, it was hard, covering like Major League Baseball, like all these sports, being single was hard. And I don't know how you felt about it, but you feel you need these guys' numbers. You feel weird asking for their numbers because it can be completely misconstrued, right? I remember standing around like batting practice with some guys, and I think it was like Jose Canseco, or I don't know, Mark McGuire, all these guys, right? And I'm thinking, how am I, like, it is so going to be misconstrued when I ask these guys for their numbers.
Yeah. But then doesn't it piss you off when reporters go on air, male, and then say, I was texting with so-and-so last night. And I always think if I ever said that in a report, it'd be like, it's like,
totally.
Come on.
Yeah. Like I was talking to so-and-so late into the night. Yeah, exactly. I know.
Yeah.
There's all these like, double standards and everything. But I'll never forget Andy Reid, and he said it on air. Andy Reid, the week before they'd, say they'd had like a 3-touchdown lead at halftime, ended up losing. And the exact same thing happened that week. So I said, Coach, I got to ask you, it's halftime. You got to, and he's like, I can't believe you just asked me that. And he told me later, he came up and apologized, and he said he was joking. And Al Michaels, as I threw it up to Al, I was like, of course she asked him that. Like, of course she has to ask him that.
So you reported that, or that was live, that interview?
Live. That was live.
Wow.
But Andy to this day will and say, I was just joking. I'm like, well, okay. No, it was written about in every paper the next day. No one thought you were joking. But Belichick, I think just because we all started out together, like you said, because I really started, Monday Night Football, it was 2000, and Brady hadn't even, begun. It was crazy. Like, I would go in the locker room at halftime, and he wouldn't say, like, we weren't allowed to say that we were in the locker room, but Al, I'd give the report, and then Al would say straight, something code word, like straight from the locker room, or something like that.
Cool.
But I had some I had some good access there, but still, I still get, I don't know how you and I have talked about this. I still get nervous when I interview I don't know. I don't like when people shut me down. I also don't like controversial interviews. I don't like putting people on this. A lot of our job is kind of putting people on the spot or asking like the really, I don't, that still makes me like squeamish, which would be hard, which is hard for probably because it's our job and it's what we do on a daily basis. But I don't know if you feel the same way.
Oh, I totally do. I'm not there to, it's not that I'm not there to break stories, but I just, I hate asking. You got to do it. You have to ask the tough questions, but you don't want people to A, feel like you're a pain in the ass, or B, make them uncomfortable. But I feel like, obviously you being who you are, everyone knows you have a job to do. Best interview. I feel like such a fangirl right now asking these questions people ask me, but favorite interview while you worked Monday Night Football?
Favorite interview while I worked Monday Night Football.
Also, was Brett amazing? Because that is my favorite player growing up. And so, was he amazing? Because I feel like I watched so many interviews with you and him, and I just was like, okay, this is what I want to do.
Like, Brett's hot and cold because, I'm laughing because, this last Super Bowl, he thought he was having ketchup, and he had like Tabasco right before we were doing an interview of all the Hall of Famers and stuff. He just ingested, I can't remember, I think it was Tabasco. It was something very hot. And he was all red and sweating, and we were laughing really hard. He would either hang out with you, at the facility and everybody, and just kind of want to hang around for hours, or he was sort of, I don't know if he gets, I don't know. He was sort of hot and cold. I love, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I just think, it depends when you, like, the times you hit these certain players and like what kind of mood they're in.
What's going on. Yep.
So it's just funny how, once, I remember, if we're going to be telling these stories, going back to, I think it was Jose Canseco or somebody, Yes. And he said, do Peter Gammons write all your, I came in, it was one of the first things I'd ever done. And he said, do Peter Gammons write all your questions? And you
Stop
just have
it.
to sort of, you just got to like, and thankfully, Erin, because of, I'm not saying because of you and me, but just, women that came before, hopefully, now it's commonplace, right? I mean, there's an era where I covered, I covered a made for TV golf event. And like, guys like Tiger and Sergio, they get it. They get that we're a part of all of this and like what a made for TV event. And Jack Nicklaus, said something like, you might be pretty to look at, but you're standing, way too close to my line or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. On TV. So, but that's somebody, listen, that is, I just think you and I know that is like part of everything that we dealt with.
Right.
You just sort of have to have that thick skin. I mean, times have changed a lot in the last couple of years for
times
a lot
have
of
changed.
People, and
yes,
that
ma'am.
wouldn't be tolerated. But it made me, and I'm sure you, stronger. I mean, it wasn't fun it wasn't fun to go through it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Then, I mean, we were really like women in a man's world.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. Totally. Yeah.
So it just takes, I think it takes time, like anything, to kind of get used to that.
Who, I mean, besides Belichick, who else was your, like, I mean, I'm not saying he's your favorite, but I always like, and I'm so envious how you can get him. Who was so great to you?
Who was
that
so
you'll
great?
Always be so, thankful and grateful for.
Right. I mean, I think, well, the whole thing, and I'm sure you find this, like with the whole Monday Night Football name behind you, I could call anybody and sort of say, hey, this is any college coach. I could call anybody and just say, hey, it's okay. Yeah. I mean, and that's why I say I wish, social media had been big back then or other things had been big back then, because then you could really sort of like I could have much more so taken advantage of that whole platform. I feel like I missed out on a lot of
that's
that.
so interesting because I hate it. Like, I mean, obviously it's had a good and bad effect on my life, but that I never thought of that for you. That's so interesting.
Well, you might hate it. And I do think it's incredibly draining. And I think it's very, very invasive. I mean, I think it's incredible, like what you do. I mean, Charissa is like constantly, I remember, oh my gosh, I think I texted her when this happened. So we have a seminar every year for NFL Network in August. Did you hear this? And they put her up.
No.
They said examples of someone who brands themselves really well. But you guys have it's incredible how you guys have like branched out in your clothing line. I'm so proud of you for all of, I mean, it's just
Love you.
Awesome. It's awesome. But going back to, who, and I just did I did an interview for a documentary on him, but he's not someone I covered. He's someone I worked with, was John Madden though. I have to say John Madden, you came up to me at first and he said, I never valued the sideline position until I worked with you. And he's like, and it was just, here's this larger than life guy who has had just this Hall of Fame career as a coach, then broadcasting and all, people knew me because I was on now you're doing, I think, some Madden stuff, but like, I did, So I would, little kids would know me just from the video game. Because when we did football, we did the video game. And, and he took me under his wing and just was the kindest, most fun. We had so much fun riding on because of his claustrophobia. He doesn't fly or do anything like that. So we were always on the Madden cruiser, always going around. And you know what that's like, just the camaraderie. I mean, I see you with your whole crew. Yeah. And that's
it's your family.
It's half of our lives, right?
It
exactly.
is.
It's family. So when you're on the road and you're living like that, and to have those kind of experiences, it just makes it, incredible. So to answer your question, like, I don't think anybody necessarily, sort of stands out other than, Madden and kind of cool interviews, because everybody, you have that Monday Night Football, which was the highest rated show in television at the time, behind you, it's sort of this whole thing in and of itself.
I could ask you 8,000 more questions. I know you have kiddos at home, but you've touched on this a few times, and I want to leave you with this. And then you have to promise to come back when Charissa is on, because again, I mean, 23 Michael Jordan is our everything, but you are right up there with him. And she's going to be so pissed about this, but I didn't want to tell her you were coming on because it would make her feel worse. You just keep talking about the things you wish you had known about, or someone, you know, could give you advice about later in your career, maybe enjoying it a little bit more. I'm there. What kind of advice would you give? Or anybody? I mean, I'm always asked, what would you advice would you give women starting out? But I want women starting out and women that are hanging on at 42 years old.
Wait, did you just call me a hanger-oner?
No, I am. I'm the hanger-oner. I'm the hanging on at 42. But I love that you said, I can't wait to hear what you would recommend.
I could give you, Erin Andrews.
No, I'm serious. You know I look up to you so much, but I'm interested in what kind of advice Melissa Stark has for anyone in this industry.
Oh, for anyone in this industry. What I would say is, you know, the biggest key is talking to everybody you can and knowing what you're talking about, especially for women. Yeah. I mean, because I think women can get into this industry, you know, for the wrong reasons, or just think, hey, it's fun and I want to be around football and all of that. But I think, you know, like you and I were just talking about, getting those phone numbers and having those relationships and forming all of that. And I've been lucky to do that, you know, over 20 plus years, you know, with football, and so have you. And so developing those contacts and relationships and you know, earning respect. It's everything you and I have just talked about, like the challenges, and people will challenge you constantly. And you've got to be ready for that. You've got to be prepared so that you don't fall when that happens, right? And like you cried in that locker room, and I have been stunned many times, but we powered through. And hopefully women aren't going to necessarily face that. But I think... but
I'm grateful for the lessons. I'm grateful. It made me stronger. Sometimes my husband's like, could we be a little bit more of a lady? Why are you so manly? Well, why? Because I cried in a locker room at 18. I had to toughen up, babe.
Yeah. And I mean, if you were so dainty and, you know, all of those things, I don't think you'd be doing this, right?
Yeah.
If you didn't have that thick skin or that backbone, right? And down on those fields and covering all this and right in the thick of it and in the middle of it. But, and I think when I first started out at ESPN, we had sort of like a talent, someone who taught you. She said, "What's your job?" It was sort of a quiz, and I don't think I answered it right. But she was like, the answer was to get the story, like to get that nugget. And I just remember the first game that I did, and it was a Patriots game.
Ooh, what was it? Yeah, what was the first game you did?
So it was the Hall of Fame game. I did the Hall of Fame game.
So that
was the first game that I did for Monday Night Football. It was Hall of Fame game. And so it was Dennis Miller. It was Eric Dickerson, right? It was Dan Fouts, and Al, and it was way back in the day when we had that huge team on Monday Night Football.
Oh my God!
And they did a spoof on. It's so funny because they did a spoof on Saturday Night Live, and my friends thought that they're like, "You've made it," you know, because it was Saturday Night Live.
Who played you on Saturday Night Live? Who played you?
It was really early on, Maya Rudolph. Like early.
Fun.
He's like, my sweater sets. He's like, and my sweater sets from I can't even remember the brand, whatever. But I would always we were I think it was Ralph Lauren that did our clothing that year, and I always had sweater sets. Club Monaco, that's what she said. And I was like, what is Club Monaco? I don't even know what Club Monaco is.
I don't have Saturday Night Live on my resume at all. So that's so freaking awesome, Melissa. Okay, so Hall of Fame game. Yeah, go on.
And the thing is, I can't even find it. I think it's on like a VHS, or I was trying to tell my kids that I was on Saturday Night Live. They're like, wait, what? I can't even find it.
Awesome.
But okay, so Hall of Fame game, and I found out from the Patriots that they had fined their players. I think it was for. I can't remember, like, if anybody walked in 1 minute, let's just say, I can't even remember, because once you have kids, I think you forget everything. But they fined their players for something like crazy, like no one could believe it. And the fines were like, and I don't know why it was such a big nugget, but like the fines were like $125,000. And I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And Fred Gadelli, our producer, was like, everyone's jaws dropped, and they thought it was, and I was like, Dennis can have it. Dennis can have fun with it. Take it. You know, they're like, no, this is yours. And this is, and so I guess that was like one of those, you know, nuggets, one of those things, you know, no one else has that you've done because of relationships and because you've talked to people. And And that was less common in those days, right? Because now I say to you, social media and the relationship and you know, you have so much more access, I feel like, to these athletes, and you know so much more. But in those days, you know, that was not as common to get that kind of information.
Right.
But that would be my advice to anybody is like, you know, you constantly want to have the information that, you know, somebody else doesn't, right?
Yeah,
but
100%.
You always have the information that somebody else doesn't.
Stop. I love you. How's NFL 360 going? You just talked to my boy, Devin White, and I need to watch that one. Do you die for him? I'm like, be careful on those horses. Get down off this side of the road, Devin White.
What an amazing guy. And what he went through, and then just the way he did, like his horses. Like, so for people who don't know, you know, he lost his stepbrother when he was 13 years old. It was his best friend. He died in a car accident. And so for him, those horses, I mean, everybody knows about the horses, but for him, it's not just a hobby. It's like part of his soul, you know, and it's a way to cope with the loss of his brother and the whole thing. And what a great guy. And we, you know, NFL 360 is like, it's like a throwback because I can barely get my kids to watch it because, you know, everyone has ADD right now. And like, it's what have you done for me? And they're like, what? I'm going to sit down and watch a 6-minute piece. But it's like, I get to go back and do those journalistic pieces that, you know, I used to do like Outside the Lines for ESPN, and you know, you get to dig, and you get to see different sides of these people and these players, and they tug at your heart. These stories, you know, I cry at half of the things that we do, but yeah, it's really cool. But you know, it's a nice mix with like I'm going to London next week.
Oh, you are?
I'm sort of
do you have hair and makeup?
I'm the London sideline girl. Do I what? Did I what?
Do you have hair and makeup? That's the text Charissa, Melissa, and I have going. Oh, hey, where's your hair and makeup?
The three-way text. By the way, I just found somebody great for you, and you have somebody in New York, but I just found somebody.
No, I'll take everything. Yeah,
it's hard to find somebody nowadays with COVID. They want one person to do it, and it's hard to find for all those women. It's hard to find one person that can do both. But so I found hair and makeup, and that's where I was hit with the football in the head like years and years ago. I was just so happy that I liked my hair and makeup on the day that I was hit in the head because I kept replaying over and over again. I was like, yes, at least I liked the look.
The way you looked. Yeah. Heck yeah.
So anyway, I'm going back over there.
Okay.
Not a great game. It's Jets and Falcons, but
I'll be watching.
Fun. It's still fun.
Yeah. Okay, and we love having our OG on the sideline, Melissa Stark. And I know, I get it. I get annoyed when girls are like, I've watched you forever, but your skin, your hair, your outfit, all of it. I just bow down to you, lady. You should be doing moisturizer commercials. You look like you're like 25. What is your secret?
I don't even really do. I don't know. I'm not into all those. Are you into like products and all sorts of things and you try things out? Okay, you do?
Yeah. But I'm still a guy. Like I can put like the same crap on my face and call it a day. Like I don't know how to do anything. So
I don't know how to do. And that was the hard thing during COVID is having to learn how to do.
Oh yeah.
I did not know how to do a thing. You know, when we're lucky enough, I should say to all the women, we are so lucky to get our hair and makeup. And that is like my favorite part of the job. But I'm usually sitting there and, you know, I'm getting last minute information or I'm going over scripts or whatever I'm doing. So I'm not paying attention. Because I thought, how do I not know how to do this? But I'm really not paying attention.
Exactly.
So, well, I love seeing you.
I love seeing you. I love you so much. Thank you for coming on last minute. She's going to freak. We're going to wait till she feels better.
Okay,
but good luck in London. She will. But this was emotional for me. I feel like I'm going to have a little bit of a cry on the treadmill now. You are everything.
We have to, the last time the three of us were in person together, we had a great
Super Bowl.
time.
Houston.
And so, yep. And so, hopefully this year, we'll figure it out. We have to get together.
I'm going to give you a big hug and kiss on your cheek and know how much I love you and how much I still look up to you. And I can't thank you enough for just making it look so beautiful. This is what I would always say to people when they ask me about you. I'm like, she's smart, she's hot. And guys just respect the hell out of her. And when I'm still asking guys like about you and like what it was like when you worked on the sidelines with them, I'm like, I want to be like this. I mean, I'm asking Coach Belichick how to be like you. So there you go. I love you, Melissa Stark. You are everything. You're like, when I met Oprah for the first time, Oprah, George Clooney recently, I was just like, these are what you want them to be like in real life. And you're exactly what I want you to be. You're just everything.
Well, that is such a compliment coming from you. That is
go take care of those sick babies. I hope everybody's okay.
They're not babies anymore. Oh my gosh.
Love you.
Love you too. Great to see you.
Calm Down with Erin and Charissa is a production of iHeartRadio.
For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.